Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Thursday, the 20th of November. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry. How goes it, Joshua?
Good. Very cold, Derek. Very, very cold. I suspect it is the same where you are.
Yes, Baltic. I've got the old jumper on this morning. Temperatures seem to have just dipped somewhat. Jason gets in touch as well. He says, Baltic here in Prestwick. Shiver me timbers. Get your winter woolies on, folks, because, it's pretty cold out there, that's for sure. I was out last night, incidentally. It was covering a Bolton youth game at Tranmere Rovers, and my hands almost fell off. It was that cold. Make sure you get
a youth game at Tranmere Rovers.
Yes, it was at the FA Youth Cup, no less. And big shout out to the young lads at Bolton. They won 2-0 to set up a home tie against Leicester, which will be a step up for them. But it did well last night. But by golly, it was freezing cold. So it was not ideal. I need to dress up like I'm about to climb Kilimanjaro, I think, from here on in if I'm covering games. But there you go. Lots to talk about with regards to Rangers. We're edging closer to Rangers returning to action against Livingston on Saturday afternoon. Before we delve into some of the big talking points in a very interesting article on the website this morning, quick word for our podcast sponsors, Willow's Fencing, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust and proud partners of the Rangers Review. They've got over 20 years of experience in the fencing game, so they know what they're doing, folks. No job is too big or too small. You get 10% off with the code Rangers Review over on their website, which is willows-fencing.com. And we'll also give a big shout out as well. If you haven't taken advantage of our Black Friday offer, then now is the time to do so. So many of you, incidentally, have already taken it up since we launched it on Monday, so thank you. And many more of you, I'd imagine, will be looking to take it up. 12 quid for an entire year, which is outstanding value, you've got to say. The all-important link is in the description below this video. And you won't be disappointed if you take it out, folks. I can assure you of that. We've got so many existing subscribers as well. So thank you to each and every single one of you for your support. You get stories like the one you broke earlier on in the week, Joshua, from the set piece coach news that Scott Fry has joined Rangers. So you'll get stories like that, and you'll also get articles like you'll find on the website this morning, which leads us nicely on about Bojan Miovski and why he has struggled since joining from Girona in the summer. Over to you, Joshua.
Yeah, we should say as well to people, because we have obviously so many viewers every day, and we appreciate each and every one of them, Derek, but the app as well. If you've not downloaded the app, especially if you're a subscriber, you can watch the morning briefing in the app. The YouTube feed is right there. You can bookmark and save articles. You can bookmark and save videos, and it's a much better experience than all the algorithms and the ads you get elsewhere. Ad light, much nicer reading experience. So there is my plug for the app as well. I think the links for that will be in the description too. But yeah, Miovski, Derek, is something we've been meaning to look at for a while, because I feel like when he signed, he was kind of viewed as just like a common sense signing, wasn't he? It was one of these ones where people thought, yeah, I can see why that's done. And at the time, there's maybe a little bit of skepticism at the fact that, look, he'd scored 44 goals for Aberdeen over 2 seasons in all competitions. 12 of those were penalties, so that needs to be taken into consideration. But generally, I think you'd think, like, okay, if this player's playing in a better team, he's going to have more opportunities and score more goals. So what this article looks at and what we can maybe get in today is, why is that not happening? So he's only scored 1 league goal, Derek, in 570 minutes. He's only taken 9 shots, which is basically nothing. He was taken off at halftime against Dundee away. He was taken off at halftime against Kilmarnock at home. And I actually think there's quite an interesting comparison to Cyril Dessers, because if you look at, I thought you and Stevie summed it up quite well yesterday, the goal he scores for North Macedonia against Wales, aside from the end result, which was an emphatic defeat, that's a Miovski goal, isn't it? Where he's running in behind. It's a well-timed run. But then you start to question, well, how reliant is he on space to score? So I think it's a bit of a chicken and egg. I think he needs to adapt to Rangers. I think Rangers need to adapt to him. But if I just throw up these numbers quickly and you maybe take down the relevant banners at the top. this hopefully gives a little bit more context as to what we're seeing. So although Cyril Dessers was scoring a lot more on average than Miovski last season, and this is just from the Scottish Premiership, and obviously Dessers didn't take penalties. The other key thing to point out is that look how many shots Dessers was averaging compared to Miovski this season. Look at the fact that he was averaging almost 3 times as many touches in the opposition box. So I don't think people also realise the complete dearth of opportunities that Rangers have created. If I was to say to you, Derek, that Rangers have created less opportunities on average than Falkirk this season, would you be surprised?
Wow,
They have.
probably not.
So it's Falkirk. It's small. Rangers expected goals per 90 is 1.03, and I think Falkirk's is 1.05. But the point still stands. It's
not good.
It's not good. It's Rangers' chance creation is about half of what it was at the peak under Michael Beale and Philippe Clement. So two sides to it. I think Rangers need to adapt to Miovski and get him more opportunities. But also, the best strikers create their own chances, don't they? And maybe we've not seen him do enough of that so far.
Yeah, who do you think starts on Saturday? Would you play 2 up top? What do you think he'll do, Danny Rohl?
Well, the kind of form player so far has been Danilo, hasn't it? And I think in games like this, it makes sense to have 2 strikers. But Danilo's the only one who can really play in the pockets. And the reason I think Chermiti's been favoured is for the faults I think he's demonstrated and the rawness he's demonstrated, he's more of an occupier of a defence. So it's easier, especially as Danny Rohl's been focusing on, the structure off the ball and getting that right first. It's easier to just basically hit it up to Chermiti, which I think you've seen Rangers do to mixed effect so far. And in a game, so Miovski's only played, I think, 200 minutes away from home compared to like 400 minutes or so in the league at home. And if you look at those away games, he scored against Falkirk, which is that type of chance is his chance, isn't it? It relies on movement, getting away from centre backs, creating separation. And he should score against Livingston when he has that opportunity that he flashes just over the bar, that maybe a more confident version of him scores. And then he has that late header, which, to be fair, forces the corner Rangers win it from. But I think just away from home generally will suit him more because he'll have space to run in behind. But because of how Danny Rohl's been using a striker so far, especially when they've been in a back 3, it's been more about playing into him. And then, and then as Chermiti maybe has allowed Danilo to play off him a bit. I think there is space in possession dominant teams for a number 9 to just like hang around the box. The elite example, as I mentioned in the article, obviously Erling Haaland isn't that involved in Man City's build-up. But the trade-off is when you get a chance, you've got to always score them, and your team has to be good enough to keep getting you chances. And again, I just don't think either of those 2 factors have been happening for Miovski and Rangers so far.
Yep. Brian says he thinks that Miovski will come good. I hope he does come good. I was pretty satisfied when Rangers brought him in. Initially, I thought, okay, decent pedigree, of course, at Aberdeen for one reason or another. Didn't quite happen for him at Girona. To me, and there's been some comments as well from certain quarters saying he doesn't look sort of 100% fit at this point in time. He hasn't had a full pre-season. Perhaps that's a good thing. He wasn't at Rangers earlier in the summer because, it's fair to say that many of them don't look as fit as what they could have been. But it'll be interesting to see if he can pick up his form. He does know the way to go. That's the thing. I've discussed this before with regards to the comparison between Miovski and Chermiti. At least Miovski, he has scored goals in the past. He has a back catalogue of work you can look at and go, he has the ability to find the back of the net, whereas Chermiti doesn't at this point in time. But it is a problem for Rangers, and with January looming, it's going to be an issue that has to be addressed. It remains to be seen if Rangers can bolster the attacking areas. It might be. Do you think it might be dependent on players going out the door? I mean, you've already got 3 on the books, Joshua. It's going to be difficult to maybe shift players out and then bring players in on that front.
But then equally, your strikers only have 6 goals between them, and it's November. And I appreciate that each of them hasn't played a ton of football, but there will come a point where that number will require some action. So it is a difficult situation for them because they've spent a lot of money on that position, and I don't think they've upgraded it.
No.
I don't think there's much between Miovski and Dessers, personally. And I think there's an argument that Dessers fashions more opportunities for himself. But as those stats I've just showed demonstrate, I also think you need to contextualize it with the fact that Miovski is a striker who thrives off through balls and crosses and being in the penalty box, and he's just not had those opportunities created for him so far. As I said at the top of the show, in Falkirk have averaged, and I'm not laughing at Falkirk because they've done a brilliant job and complete credit to them, but they've just come up. They were in League One a couple of years ago, and you think of the money that Rangers have spent, and okay, it's only 11 match days in, but it just goes to show, I think, how bad Rangers were at the start of the season. We know it, but those kind of stats really put it into context. But you look at the fact that Chermiti compared to Hamza Igaman, Derek, there's not much between what Rangers spent and what Rangers got in, and I think there's a lot between the quality of those two players at this moment in time. Dessers and Miovski. I've just referenced that argument there. So you're looking at the money that's been spent and has that position been upgraded. I think that's one that, as Danny Rohl surveys his squad, and he said that he wanted to take a few weeks before he really made judgments. I think what you see with the set piece coach appointment is he will know there's certain areas that he just needs to get right and he can't wait on if he wants to be successful this season. And I do get the sense that the number 9 position might be one of those areas. The next month's going to be really key because you can't really be going into January, Derek, thinking, oh, who's my number 9 at that point? I think you've got to know. And no one's grabbed it so far whatsoever, have they?
No, they haven't. I miss Hamza, I've got to say. This comment sums it up. For me, Miovski replaced Dessers and Chermiti replaced Igaman, which is a massive downgrade in both departments for the amount of investment. Can't disagree with that, I've got to say. You look at the strikers now, and probably Danilo is the best option, and he was probably third choice last season, which tells you where the recruitment has been. So,
not just third choice last season, he was third choice at the end of the transfer window. I think he was completely bombed out, and he spoke about this after I think it was after the Kilmarnock game, where he was basically bombed out after the Bruges games, didn't get a look in under Russell Martin. I don't think he started a game for about 2 months. And Danilo has his qualities. You saw that finish against Hibs was excellent. The question always with him is robustness. And also, to what extent has that knee injury really impacted his explosiveness and his pace? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that stretch of games he played under Philippe Clement before he got the knee injury at Hearts, I think he looked quick. I remember, was it Sparta Prague at home where he scored and he hit the post and Rangers 1-2-1? He felt like a much quicker player then, and maybe that's just unfortunate that the knee injury has impacted him in that way. But I don't think he's a player at the moment that you could say, he's going to be my starter in 40 games out of the 40 games. You need one of the two you've spent money on to do that and to hold that mantle. Yeah.
There's a point as well. I wanted to get your view on it. Quite an interesting point from Neil McLean, just on the striker roles. He says, what type of number 9 do you think Rohl will go for, Joshua? What type suits his style of play? I personally would like a good old-fashioned rugged number 9 and a sort of Haaland type. Actually mentioned on the Q&A show. They've done a news show on Tuesday, I think. One of the day, or even it may have been Tuesday, I think it was. Some of the news coming out from Egypt is that Al Ali over there have made Robbie Ewer one of their main targets. He's done well at Sirius over in Sweden after a short spell at Anderlecht and has done pretty well. And I think that's the sort of calibre of striker I would have liked Rangers to have went for in the summer, as opposed to Yusuf Chermiti. And I don't think he would have cost anywhere near what Chermiti would have cost. And I can bet you everything I own he'd have scored more goals than Yusuf Chermiti at this point in time. So that sort of striker I would like to see at Ibrox. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, the argument I think on Chermiti that it's hard to get away from is that it's a development player on what we've seen so far, who could be a really good striker in time. You speak to people who worked with him in the Portuguese youth squads, and they will say that he was. I remember speaking to one who said he was the reference. He was the one that people looked up to and said he's gonna make it. But it's such a hard place to develop, and when you've not got a track record of scoring goals, and when you're wearing that price tag, it's really, really difficult. The reason I think Chermiti's been favoured generally, to Neil's point, is number one, he is that focal point, and he can occupy defence a bit more, and you can play off him. And number two, and actually Rohl spoken about this quite a lot, he's improved a bit off the ball. I think Hibs away he was quite good, and that's such a huge aspect of Danny Rohl's game, how his team press off the ball, how aggressive they are, and I wonder if the physicality that Shamiti has puts him ahead of Miovski in that particular pecking order. So I don't know, maybe it's a case-by-case, game-by-game basis, but you've seen Miovski be taken off, what was it, home to Kilmarnock at halftime, and then when else was away to Dundee at halftime. I think of the three, if they were all in a peak physical condition at the moment, Danny Rohl would go for Danilo, but Chermiti's size gives him that little bit of an edge. And to the earlier point, I think you can carry a striker like Miovski who's not great with his back to goal, but you've got to have a really well functioning team outside of him, which allows him to hang on the last line and make runs in behind.
Yeah.
Whereas so far, I think because Rangers have created so few opportunities, they've not had the luxury of carrying a player like that until they get into the final third, because they don't spend enough time in the final third.
Yeah, they certainly do not. Thomas is backing Big Youssef. He says Chermiti will prove a lot of people wrong. I hope you're totally right on that, Thomas. And Mark on the type of number 9 he wants. He says a young Duncan Ferguson without the red cards would be ideal. Big Dunk would have loved to. He said it himself in his book, which I listened to recently, his autobiography. Well worth a read if you haven't already done so, folks. He talks about his career in great detail and his time at Rangers. I think he said it himself. He joined Rangers too soon in his career. And the way he had to leave was absolutely out of order. But what a player he was. You'd have been too young to remember him in his pomp, Joshua. Remember at his sort of tail end of his playing career at Everton.
Yeah, and remember his brief managerial spell at Everton a few years ago, where he went proper 4-4-2. I think he won away he drew away at Old Trafford. There was some noise, I think a little bit of no smoke without fire of Duncan Ferguson potentially coming in as an assistant in the past when the David De Ancelotti links were very real and very close in summer. I believe that was raised again. So maybe we'd have seen a reassociation of Duncan Ferguson. But I can't. He'd retired in what, 2006, 5?
Nah,
earlier.
2009, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so. I do. You can correct me if I'm wrong, folks. My sense of time is a bit ski with sometimes when I think back at players and when they used to play. But he was a cracking striker. It's idolised down at Everton, and rightly so. He was a huge player for them. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up as a coach. He is wanting to get back in the game, of course. At this point in time, he's doing a bit of a tour, giving some talks up and down the country at this point. But I think he is a real benefit to whoever takes him in. He's worked with, as you mentioned there, worked with Don Carlo at Everton when he was there. And he's worked with some top bosses. So, it'll be intriguing to see where he ends up. Right, let's move on, because you sort of touched on it a little earlier on, that the piece that we broke on the website earlier this week was the news that Scott Fry is joining as the club's first ever set-piece coach. He joins from Lincoln City, where he's been head of set pieces since 2024. Now, Danny Rohl has been speaking about the appointment, and this is what he had to say. He said that we have Scott Fry now. It's very important for me to get the best man for this part of the game. A lot of goals come from set pieces, and if you're drawing a game, then you have a set play coach, and it gives you a good opportunity to score. You have a lot to do. It's important that you have an expert around you who's working 24/7 for set pieces. Then he will help us a lot. And he went on to say it's about bringing things from the meeting room onto the pitch. And for you need the specialist. We looked through the data and who has the best data in set pieces, what makes sense and what is possible in this market. And we found a short list. I spoke to some guys, and in the end, Scott did really well in the meeting. He has a clear idea of what he wants to do and identity in set pieces, and I'm very happy to get him here. So there you go, Danny Rohl on the appointment of Scott Fry. I'm looking forward to possibly seeing invention and creativity this Saturday in the set pieces. Joshua, is that too much to ask?
It has been for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, he's been in since Monday, as you say. We broke that story on Monday, and so there will have been a bit of time this week, or there will be a bit of time this week. Although internationals will be arriving back late, and I think an international break for a bigger club is always a bit of a. There's actually not that much time to work with players because so many of them are only coming back at the tail end of the week. Listen, it's an appointment that Chris reported on the website last Friday that it was something that Rangers were strongly considering, and our understanding is that Danny Rohl was quite strongly behind that. I've listened to the podcast yesterday and the day before, and I thought yourself and Blair covered it well with, the Wolves links, and is there that caveat again? I would tend to think that this would look like a better appointment, but and because there has been so many associated links, it's inevitable that discussion will come up. But Lincoln's set piece record was impressive. A high number of goals from set plays, and our sources basically insinuated that Rangers looked to overperform in set piece overperformance right across the UK, and tried to identify a set piece coach who could help take them forward. But he's also someone who's known to Kevin Thelwell because he worked in the Wolves Academy from 2015 to 2022. And another story that we revealed over the last month is that Jonathan Hunter-Barrett, who Kevin Thelwell spoke about in that Rangers TV interview at the weekend, he'll be joining the club in the new year to head up the academy too. So lots of additions in line with what, as Stevie referenced, Andrew Kavanagh basically saying that he likes in a company people telling him who they should hire, or kind of relevant qualifiers for certain jobs. He can argue against the merits of that as well, I'm sure. But it's clearly a role that Rangers have needed to have for a while. As Blair and I spoke about the weekend, and we had this on the website too, for a while, Rangers were actually good offensively from set pieces. They scored 17 set piece goals in 21-22, which was when it was Roy Mackay in charge of set pieces. I think that was the second total in the whole league. He scored 21 in the following season, which is a lot. And in the following two seasons combined, they only managed 17, so 9 and 8. And last season, Rangers scored the fewest set piece goals in the entirety of the division, which is incredible when you consider the resource, when you consider how many set pieces they're getting in theory compared to weaker teams in the division. And this season, Derek, what's really come up is how weak they've been from those situations defensively. So, yeah, whether we see Scott Fry kind of at the edge of his technical area, Nicholas Jover style, telling James Tavernier where to cross the ball and who to run where, I don't know. And there has been coaches designated to set pieces before, and Roy Mackay and Harry Watling had good success. But this will be a clearly identifiable figure who is responsible for them. And I'm interested to see how it works, because it's definitely an area in which Rangers have nowhere near hit the maximum, both offensively and defensively too.
Yeah, he's an obsessive Scott Fry on this sort of thing. In terms of players, I've spoken to players in the past, and they say they find set pieces and this sort of stuff immensely boring. But listen, if you get the rewards out of it, what you put in on the training pitch, and I'm hoping to see. I want to see a goal on Saturday from a well-worked set piece. I don't think that is or a real good, well-worked training ground set piece. So
you had that Derek Cornelius' goal against Kilmarnock was quite a. I think you've seen Danny Rohl already do a few different things, runners starting from different areas. I know Nico Raskin scored a lot of. It'd been very dangerous in the air before, but I think his positioning was a wee bit different compared to running from the edge of the box, almost starting as a decoy player. So there has been a little bit of that, but because Rangers set pieces have lacked anything close to ingenuity for the last couple of years, I agree with you. There'll be some appetite for some Arsenal-like routines with all the players running from the back of the box, and throw-ins too, an important part of the game that don't get enough attention, but you have 50 of them per game. So if you can make them work to your benefit in some way too. You saw the benefit of set pieces, and you score the first goal against Kilmarnock and the first goal against Dundee with a set piece. And it's a very different game if you don't in breaking down a low block. And that's something that really, really went against Philippe Clement in his final year or so as Rangers manager.
It's also big on kickoffs as well, which is you don't necessarily think about. But, we might see variation in even kickoffs and things like that. So yeah, watch this space. Big thank you to a number of you who've got in touch. And Joshua was bang on. Duncan Ferguson retired in 2006. So there you go, bang on the money on that one. And Jack Murphy just on the number 9 chat. He's slightly behind in the chat, but he says, "Morning guys, slightly behind watching the live, but Morelos would have been brilliant under Rohl, in my opinion." I do.
He'd have been brilliant under anyone. When he was at his peak, Dortmund away, Dortmund at home, or the run in the COVID season, Feyenoord away, or the run the COVID season when he came back after injury, towards the tail end of that campaign, when he puts it all together. What a player! Yeah, I still. Do you mind one of my firmest and fondest memories of Alfredo Morelos was. Do you remember the game? Who was manager? Was it Pedro Caixinha? Rangers lost 3-2 against Hibs at home when John Beaton sent off.
I was at that game, I remember. Yeah.
Did John Beaton, he sent someone off? Was it Jack? I think Ryan Jack. It was when Ryan Jack was getting sent off like every time he played for Rangers. And Hibs won it late on. And Morelos scored a header, and sometimes you see players run to the fans. He didn't just run to the fans; he ran straight into the fans behind the goal. And you thought, this guy's mad. This guy's mad, and so it proves. But what a back catalogue of moments. Yeah,
I do miss the madness, I've got to say. He was loved by many. That's for sure. CJ and NI says that Morelos would have about 10 cards this season if he was here. He actually cleaned up his disciplinary record after he was getting sent off for all sorts of things, and I think his reputation went before him somewhat sometimes. I think it was easy to show him a yellow and easy to show him a red card at points. There's a few sending offs, I think, that were pretty harsh, but he's playing back in Colombia, isn't he, at this moment in time? He's on. He was at Santos and he went on loan.
Santos for a while.
Yeah,
but they were struggling. I think they got relegated to the second division.
Yeah. Is Neymar there still? Neymar went there, didn't he? Went back.
I think he did a bad injury. I think he did his knees cruciate or something like that. I just think with Morelos, the way it went, the player he was in that final campaign was so far away from. Beale got more out of him for a few months. But I remember the game that he scored at Hampden in a Old Firm defeat, but he wasn't. He wasn't close to the player he'd been. Because you're right, he cleaned up his disciplinary record and he started to become a bit of a peacekeeper on the pitch for a time, which was a strange, strange to see. But what a player! What a player!
Yeah, absolutely. Right, folks, I think we'll wrap up there for now. A big thank you to you all for tuning into the show. A big shout out to the Blue Yonder. He says, "Come on, Bears, let's see how many likes we can get by the end of the show." Yeah, it helps us massively. So hit that like button if you don't mind, if you've enjoyed the last 28 minutes or so of myself and Joshua talking about Rangers. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I know that many of you tune in on a morning and you aren't subscribers, hit that subscribe button. Also helps us here, and hit the notification bell. You'll never miss a video when we go live. Right, that we'll wrap up there for now. Big thank you to Joshua as ever, and big thank you to you all for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed and taken advantage of our Black Friday sale, remember we have it on offer, just £12 for the entire year. The all-important link is in the description below this video. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9:30, and it is press conference day tomorrow, so we will hear from Danny Rohl, and we'll get an accurate prognosis, you'd imagine, on the likes of Derek Cornelius, John Souttar, whether they will be able to make the game against Livingston. And before we wrap up, Rangers posted that little snippet of Dujon Sterling nearing back on the grass. Joshua, could we maybe see him at some point soon?
I don't think it's out with reality. It is in contention for one of the 3 games next week, because you have Livingston, and it's 3 games at Ibrox, isn't it? Livingston, Braga, and Falkirk too. So I don't think he's far away at all, and could see him in a number of different positions. So back on the grass. He's been back on the grass he has been training parts of the session for a wee while, coming back from that injury suffered in April. And as you say, because of Souttar, because of Cornelius, Rangers might well need him. Clinton Encialo's has been back training with the first team. Points too, we understand. I think he was in that training video yesterday. So yeah, interesting to see what happens in the centre back position on Saturday, because as you say, both Suter and Cornelius have that injury question hanging over them.
Yeah. Right. Good stuff. Right. Enjoy your Thursday, whatever you're doing, folks, and we'll chat again tomorrow. Bye for now.